Hey there, I'm Lauren with Bold Notion Quilting, and I want to share some basting tips with you. Basting is the act of securing your multiple layers of fabric together before you start to quilt it. So I'm going to make sure that it's going to hold everything nice and taut and square if possible, if I'm good at my job, so that way I can get really good clean results when I'm quilting. Now, basting is a different term for everyone. Some people think of it as really long stitches that secure your top. It really is just the action of securing all 3 layers together. So if you want to put your stitch regulator on and stitch at 12 stitches per inch, that's okay. If you want to stitch at 5 stitches per inch so you get something a little bit longer, that's okay too. Keep in mind the smaller your stitches, the harder they are to rip out. So when I baste, I tend to just leave my stitch regulator on at 11 stitches per inch, and then I follow a particular method to my madness to ensure that I am distributing the fullness, the extra fabric that could end up with tucks or puckers because my borders are too long, or something in my quilt top isn't quite right, where I get extra fabric and I get those lumps and those wobbles in there. So let me show you how I manage this to make sure that I get good, consistent results every single time. If you're curious how we have selected threads for our quilt project, check out our other video on the Bold Notion Quilting YouTube channel where we selected, we walked through the process of how I select threads for my quilt top. So my stitch regulator's on, I'm at 11 stitches per inch, and I'm going to go up to the top center of my quilt. I then am going to hit the green button and stitch with the stitch regulator. And I'm going to do what I call a wiggly stitch. So it is the act of moving your machine in a serpentine pattern, back and forth, big waves, okay? The goal is to put those waves in the 1/4 inch portion where your binding is going to cover, so you're not going to see it and you don't have to rip it out. If you're not good at getting a thinner wave and your waves are too big, too hard for you to control, err on the side of your batting so that the stuff that's left in your fabric is minimal and it won't show past your binding. So I'm going to pull up my threads, needle down, needle up, scoop my bobbin up. I'm going to turn on my motor and I'm going to stitch from left to right, center out. Now, as I'm stitching, I do have fullness. It might be difficult for you to see in the video, but I do have extra fabric that waves. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk like a spider on the opposite end of my long arm and pull that fabric over the edge. And what that's going to do is that's going to pull this fabric nice and straight. And because I'm doing a wiggly stitch, just like if I were doing a zigzag, that fabric is going to relax back and it won't get trapped, pulled like how I'm pulling it with my spider walk. So I'm going to hit go and I'm going to wiggle, 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 walk, walk, walk. Okay. When I get to the very edge from going center out, I'm going to travel down my batting. Now my clamps are really close and my long arm is industrial, so it's, you know, I got a good couple inches on the outside where this could hit my clamps. And so I have to be diligent with how I'm basting so that I can maximize my quiltable space. So this is my little hack that I do. I'm going to remove my clamps. Okay, I'm going to lay my batting over, make sure your wheels are not going to get caught in it. I'm going to turn my machine on and I'm going to baste in this outer this outer inch of my backing. So I'm just securing the batting right now. Now to give myself more space, I'm going to take my clamps and I'm going to clamp them on the batting now. The batting doesn't need to be this much extra. It just was this big and I didn't want to cut it down. Make them nice and tight. And now I've just extended the edge of my back and what can be held. If you look at this from the underneath, you can see that my minky is nice and flat, and because I'm not going to come over to the edge, I don't have to worry about that rolling. I have a good inch in here that's going to hold just fine. Just securing the batting to the backing. You can see where the backing is kind of lighter underneath, and now I'm going to baste my quilt edge without having to hit my clamps. at the very bottom of my batting area, but because I will be joining my batting, I don't want to start stitching at the very bottom. I want to go about 2 inches above, and I'm going to start stitching, okay? What I want you to see how that fabric is high up off the batting? Watch what happens to this fabric as I do my baste in my wiggly stitch and my walk. So I'm going to wiggle the base, wiggle back and forth in that binding area, and I'm going to walk in front of my machine, pulling the fabric over the front. I've just completed basting the left side of my quilt, and you can see that I have sucked up that fullness evenly in a way that it doesn't give me tucks or puckers, and my quilt is pretty much flat. Now when I quilted, all this extra stuff is going to quilt evenly, and I'm not going to get tucks and puckers. I'm going to do the same process on the right hand side. A pro tip, something else I want you to pay close attention to, is that regardless of if I had used the batting to help me on the sides, I would still either stitch down my batting to the bottom and then up the edge of my quilt with my fabric, or I would cut my threads at the top and still start basting from the bottom up. I only baste in the area that I have to physically quilt. So I'll quilt this whole area, advance, and then baste my edges bottom up, every single time, okay? For me, this gives me incredibly consistent results. My quilts are extremely flat, and the fullness is always evenly distributed throughout the entire body of the quilt. This is very important because what is actually happening is as I advance, because I basted from the bottom up, I am trapping that fullness in that section that I'm quilting as I'm quilting. If I baste from the top down, I'm going to inadvertently pull that fabric down with me, which is going to end up having your quilt give you kind of bat wings or a frowny face, or really bring in all that extra stuff at the very bottom of your quilt. And then you have to manage that all at the bottom. Now, I float my quilt tops. I do not load them, but this is how I get incredibly consistent results when I'm floating my quilts. So I hope that this video helps you, and that my method for basting is something that gives you good consistent results as well. Please share in your Facebook groups with your quilt guilds and spread the word, because Lauren from Bold Notion Quilting is here trying to help you on your long arm journey and share any tips that are going to make it easier for all of you. Take care and happy quilting, y'all. Like and subscribe. Bye.